once you have got your bowl and it has a thicker base, remember, you're gonna be trimming a foot, okay? So the inside of my bowl is very, rounded, and on the outside of my bowl, it even actually flares out and goes outward, whereas this goes inward. Another thing is there's a lot of extra clay right here, and in the base of it, it's going to be harder for you to tell than it is for me, but I know that I can go down probably 1/4 or more of an inch for that inside base. Okay, so my clay is hard, and I wanted to talk to you about like something that's really important. So once your clay gets stiffer, like maybe leather hard or before leather hard would be best, you'll cut it off the bat. Sometimes you have to cut it again, cut it twice, and you'll flip it upside down on your bat and let the base of it dry out too. Because it's up against plastic, it has a harder time to dry out. So before you start trimming a foot, you need to make sure the base is also dried out. You can set it on the fan. You can also hair dry it. If you are trying to cut into this top once for an altered bowl, if your clay is too hard, you're going to have issues with that. So you definitely want to try your best to really judge the consistency of the clay for different, whatever you're choosing to do for your altered form and your other bowl that you're choosing to create. So with a foot, you're carving out the inside of this shape, and you're carving out here so that it mimics the same shape on the inside. So I want that inside is rounded. Now I want this to be rounded. Okay, so what you're gonna need, I always have a bucket of water by me no matter what if I'm on the wheel. You're gonna need a hunk of clay, and don't just get a little bit, get a good amount. You're gonna need carving tools. So I like to use the smaller ones and the big ones at first, and then a rib is nice to have, and for beginners it's nice to also have a needle tool. So you don't have to do this on top of a bat, you can do it right on the wheel. And what's nice is the wheel has these like rings, indentations, and it can help you center the bowl back on the wheel. But I'm going to show you how to center the piece back on the wheel so you can trim a foot. If your piece was uncentered to begin with, this can definitely be challenging. So I can use the rings and try to judge like how centered it is just with those lines, and sometimes you can do a really good job. But another way to do that is you get the wheel spinning kind of slowly because it's not held on, and wherever it is closest to your fingers, so like right here on mine, it's closest to my fingers. So I'm going to stop it at that point, and I'm just going to nudge it slightly away from me. And basically, you just keep doing this until it gets equal distant all the way around from my fingers. If your bottom is all cut up weird, you can move your fingers down to help you kind of judge it that way. Which my bottom is a little bit off, so I am checking both sides. And the bottom can be off just, from how you cut it and how it laid on there. Okay, so I feel pretty good. Just nudge it just the tiniest. If it is off center when you start, your foot is going to be off place. It's not going to look good. It won't be balanced. But once you get it centered, I'm going to take 2 mounds of clay, just like balls of clay, and I'm going to attach one. So I'm going to hold my hand down here, And I'm gonna put the wad of clay on there and I'm gonna press down first. Dang it, I just moved it. So that's what you don't want to happen. When you're pushing down the little wad of clay, you do not want your bowl to shift. Okay, so just make sure if it does shift, you go ahead and check it again. All right, so I'm going to press down first on the bat, or on the wheel, and I'm supporting it and I'm pressing kind of down here. Okay, I'm gonna go directly opposite of where I just pushed place that mound, and I'm gonna push straight down again. Once you have both of them kind of secured on the wheel, then you're gonna press inward. And not really hard, but just so that it's supporting. If I had a really big bowl or a really tall piece and I wanted to trim a foot on it, you know, I might need more of these. So we're gonna use 4. So I'll hold it again, press down on that side, get a little bit more clay. Do the same thing, opposite side, press down. Once I have it both pressed down, I'm gonna move it inward. Okay, so if you're a beginner, it's kind of nice to use a needle tool to help guide you. So we wanna keep like a ring on here, and we wanna take the outside edge off and some of the middle. And you don't, judging the shape of the inside of your bowl and kind of like how it flows, you wanna go in at least, well, it just depends like how much clay you left. But like I'm going quite far in, like so an inch here, but a lot of you won't go that far in. Maybe you only go a half of an inch. But this is where my foot, the outside of my foot is gonna be, and then I am going to make another line that's about a half an inch away from this outside line to draw where my foot is gonna be. I'm gonna start with my bigger tool. You guys probably have one that looks like this. So all I'm gonna be doing is, if you're spinning the wheel slow, you're gonna have issues. You're gonna accidentally take a chunk away. So if you're doing it like this, you need to speed your wheel up a little bit. If your clay is the correct consistency or dryness, it will pull away just like how you see here. So I am trimming away the outside first because I have quite a bit of clay on this outside edge. Sometimes you need different shapes of the carving tools to kind of, you know, get into spaces where there's curves and whatnot. So all I am doing is carving away until I get to that very outside line. And I'm gonna go a little bit faster. I am supporting it over here with this hand. Sometimes that's a good idea if you're especially having to put a lot of force with the carving tool. So there's 2 types of foots. So I can make a foot where if I were to turn this right side up, you wouldn't necessarily know that there's a ring here and the inside is taken out. It would just kind of flow right into the table. Or a foot, if it's upright, you can see the foot, you know, just by looking at it. So if I were gonna do the one where it just kind of blends in right when it sits into the table, I would be close to done at this point with the outside edge. So you can see that kind of curves up. If I want the foot to show, I'm going to start using my smaller tool now. I like to use this flat edge side, and the first thing I'm going to do is turn it vertical, and I'm just going right in at that base. Remember, I have quite a bit of clay there, so I can, you know, do this. Now I can kind of see it. I can take away a little bit of that outside clay to make it appear like it rolls right into the foot, like that it's not you know, separate, or that the foot was added on to the clay. So depending on how much clay you have on the outside edge, depends on how much you can take away. The inside of the foot, the first thing I do is I focus my attention right on that ring, okay? So I hold this like a pencil, and I'm also using my other hand, and all I'm doing is pushing down while the tool is at a slight angle, or you could even kind of like go more straight up vertical. You really have to judge how much clay you have, because you can definitely go through the bottom, which sucks because then you have to start over. So now I have that started. Now I can see, okay, I can take this away. So from that line, that just helps you so you don't accidentally go into the foot. I will always support my hand because it's easy to accidentally go over there. So into the foot where I don't want that to be cut. So I'm just kind of moving my tool inward. If I spin the wheel fast, I can get that clay to go away. And then I'm just gonna keep trimming that foot. You know, it at least needs to go down 1/4 of an inch. But if your pot is really thick, you want to make it a good thickness, so you need to go down more. So remember the thickness, 1/2 of an inch to 3/8 of an inch in thickness all the way around. So I am getting close to where I am done. I'm gonna spin it just a little bit faster to get all that clay away. So if your clay is a little bit wet, it will kind of stick to this like it is now. If you ever start to feel any softness in here, I would definitely stop, because that means either that it's too thin or your clay is too wet. If your clay is too wet and you trim, you're going to end up taking away big chunks of clay, and it will look sloppy. Okay, so that's kind of the foot and the ring. Oh, the only other thing I wanted to show you is if you want to smooth it on the wheel, you can take a rib. I like these red ones the most. You can also use a metal one, and all I'm doing is just giving a little bit of pressure to smooth out that outside clay. I can do the same thing on the foot. And if you do it on the inside ring, you just have to be super careful. Sometimes I just use my finger to smooth that inside ring. Okay, so that's kind of what I get. I always would recommend turning your wheel off before you take this off, because it's on. If it's on, you accidentally touch the pedal, then you lose it. Okay, so that's kind of what my bowl looks like now. Can't wait to see what you guys make. Good luck.